Welcome to Inspire Me with Jay, a podcast focusing on meditation, the near-death experience, and all things spiritual. Hello, this is Jay Spillers from Inspire Me with Jay. My guest today is Deborah Hawkins. Deborah, how are you?
I'm good, Jay. Thank you.
So why don't you tell our audience what exactly you do?
I'm trying to spread the message of intentional gratitude. And intentional gratitude is a little bit different way to look at gratitude. And I think people know the positive effects of gratitude. It helps people beat depression and anxiety and makes them more resilient, that sort of thing. But it's really also adds to joy in life. So I think it's very important. And how I approach it is very different than many traditional kinds of gratitude practices.
And how did you come about your approach?
I think it's really important to think of how I developed this approach as from personal experience. It wasn't just to solve a problem, like wanting a new way to drive home, to avoid traffic. It wasn't like I developed a solution for an immediate problem. I basically had low self-esteem and trauma in my childhood. And I often suffered from depression throughout my adult life. So I was at an especially low point in my early 50s. I had just moved to start a new career and that didn't work. And I moved back to my hometown and then had a car accident and a lot of things continued to go bad. I was like at a low point, totally. And I said, I can't live like this. I decided I was going to make a change. So I started where I was. I started very small. I decided to write a reflection on a thing from my everyday life that I could appreciate. And I started doing that quite often. And I found that it raised my mood. So after a few years of doing this, I read like 100 posts and I recognized that I tended to write about certain general themes. Like I love feeling like I belonged to a tribe or a group of people, or when something was funny, I really had special appreciation for it. Or I wrote about things that were in my neighborhood. Like if I liked that thing, I liked it even more when I thought it was accessible, very close to me. So I decided if I had themes, everybody probably has their own personal gratitude themes. And I developed this approach around that idea that if everybody knows what sparks their feelings of appreciation, they could purposely practicing those things in the world that is. They don't have to depend on something being lucky for them.
Have you ever wanted to learn to meditate? Check out my book, Meditation for Everyone, How to Quickly Have a More Peaceful, Mindful, and Fulfilled Life, and support this channel. With Meditation for Everyone, you will learn to quickly and easily meditate, relieve stress and anxiety, alleviate depression, and have more joy, peace, and relaxation. What you will learn, mindfulness, the art of stillness, step by step on how to meditate, strategies for overcoming challenges to meditation, and much more. D. Mason said this is a nice meditation book, even for those already meditating. I agree with the statements that it will help to have a more peaceful, mindful, and fulfilled life. 4.6 star rating. available on Amazon. So is it journaling is an integral part of what you do with gratitude, that you journal each day something you enjoy or that makes you happy, something that you're happy for, or grateful for?
I don't necessarily journal every day. And I don't know, well, I do write things for my own purposes, but journaling about gratitude is not like something I feel I have to do every day. It's not like the amount of words is a goal. It's that I really take mindfulness and reflection into my life as part of my everyday life. So even if I just write something that I'm grateful for, about something I'm grateful for once a week, if I go into it deeply and really understand it, it has more emotional benefit for me than if I wrote every day, a list of something. So the purpose is to really boost my feelings. And they call it intentional gratitude, partially because if people know that the things they love and value are all around them, it helps you spot the actual circumstances when you come across them. So if I know, like, I love feeling belonging, I love creativity, I feel strongly about neighborhood discoveries, I could keep that in mind. So when I have an experience that's good, pleasant, I could actually go into it a little further and know that this is really special. Or if I'm just even at the store or just not doing anything special, if I ask myself, are any of my themes showing up in this situation? I could actually bring myself sometimes out from being in a bad mood to being in a positive frame of mind.
Does physically writing it out help more than maybe typing it and printing it? Because I've heard that sometimes physically writing things out help us to remember more, and we connect more with physical writing than with typing.
I don't think it matters. I mean, I normally do some journaling that is in a notebook longhand, but very often when I do write something for my blog, it's just direct typing. So it's not so important what the method is, but it's important that you really uncover, that you bring your mindfulness and bring all your questions to the experience. So you really understand what moves you, what touches you.
What do you
The more, I know some people don't like to write, but it's not so important that people are writers. You don't have to be a writer to practice gratitude. It's just important that you think, that you follow up with what you notice, with more questions to ask yourself, and you contemplate how you feel, and you really understand that and give that kind of room to come out.
Is it something where you periodically throughout the day look at what you've written down and reflect on it?
Well, my approach boils down to 3 steps. And again, it's not that I do it every day, or I might do, like, I don't write a blog or write something every day, but that this is almost automatic in how I live. So my approach to gratitude is different than like list journals, where people end the day writing 10 or 15 things they're grateful for. That lets external circumstances dictate so much of how you feel. So in my view, the power of gratitude has to do with how well you know yourself and your own values, and how well you could see them in new situations. That gives you the personal power to lift your own mood. So my 3-step process would be to look at past experiences where you felt grateful, and you might find that in like scrapbooks or things you wrote or things you just know about yourself. And then try to identify things you were grateful for in those circumstances, and keep asking questions till you find the underlying essence of why you were grateful in that circumstance, and come up with a theme or broadly applicable theme, something that is wide enough that you could use in other situations as a prompt. And the 3rd step would be practicing those things, around you. I'll give you an example. I mentioned that I really feel strongly about belonging, that makes me feel very happy. So I remember being in a grocery store. I was in a line, a terribly long line, and I was unhappy and very impatient. And I looked around me and I looked at other people in lines at other checkout lines. They were at other checkout lines. And I started laughing because I realized, I asked myself, how were my gratitude themes showing up here? And I realized that they were in the same position I was in. They were actually sharing the same kind of experience with me. And I felt like a great sense of belonging. So here was a difficult or irritating situation, and I ended up feeling grateful for it, because the situation didn't change, but I realized that I had so much in common with the other people I was actually experiencing this with. So that really lifted me up. So my theme was not about being in a checkout line. My theme was the essence of what made me feel good in that situation. And I realized whether it's being at a baseball game at like a visiting park, like I live in Chicago, I've gone to Milwaukee to watch baseball games. And sometimes I could see in the stadium people with my cap on, the Cubs cap on. And I feel really grateful and wonderful because I'm with my people. So I don't make a theme about something that has to be so specific in a future situation. You'd be very limited, but I create my themes around something that could be the essence of what makes me feel uplifted, and something that could be present in other situations.
Well, I think connection is really important, because I saw studies where they talk about people that have drug and alcohol addictions. And one of the biggest things is they don't have a sense of connection with others. And sometimes a group like maybe Alcoholics Anonymous, you feel a connection because they all have the same issue.
Well, connection can be important. It certainly is to me. And it might be for you, but I think it's really important when you think of gratitude that you realize it's very individual, and everybody has their own gratitude themes. And part of the reason this approach is very powerful is because what you feel grateful for is understood not to be what somebody else is grateful for. It's like you don't really generate genuine or authentic gratitude if you're trying to feel some positive about a situation because your pastor or sponsor or mother or teacher, whatever, told you this is what you should be grateful for. I'm 65, and I remember growing up when my mother would serve me dinner, and I wouldn't want to eat it. And she said, you should be grateful for that. Kids in China can't eat that. And that didn't make me feel grateful. That just made me feel sorry for the kids in China. So the point is that you can't assume what somebody else's gratitude themes are. They have to mind their own experience to understand what they are. And if you individually understand what your themes might be, and you might develop 4 right away and identify more over time, experience will suggest more to you. They really spark feelings, deep feelings that somebody's recommendation on what you should feel grateful for, it's not the same thing.
Well, it's sort of like you have to individualize it. And it's kind of like there was a book by Gary Chapman called The 5 Love Languages. And we kind of all experience love similar, but there's specific things that we directly connect with love. Like some people spending time with them, other people, they like the sense of touch. So it might be finding specific areas that bring you gratitude, and they may not be identical to everyone else. Is kind of what you're saying.
Right. I've read that book, and I feel very, I like it a lot. It reminds people that they have to know themselves, and they have to know who they want to have a relationship with and negotiate how to express themselves to people. But I'll give you an example. Let's say I love my dog. Well, and I'm grateful I have my dog. Other people can be grateful for having a dog too, but our reasons might be very different. The underlying reason why we feel that strongly, why we're so grateful. So dogs, having a pet might be about personal history and a sense of loyalty. This dog kind of is mine. It belongs to me. We've shared a lot of experiences together. A lot of people love having a dog because having a dog gives you permission to be spontaneous, to play. You might really enjoy and be grateful for playing catch. You wouldn't think of doing that normally, or taking a walk. So you might be grateful for that. I know during the pandemic, I live alone, and it was really wonderful to scratch my dog's belly, to feel touch. So touch, spontaneity, shared history, those are 3 different reasons that might be associated with being grateful for having a dog. And yet each person might have a different thing, a reason for their own feelings. And what I suggest is that you really uncover the reasons you feel a certain way in a deep level, and one that could be applied to other things. So let's say, knowing that I really am grateful for touch, I could apply that to things besides having a dog. I really love walking barefoot in grass in the morning, and I'm grateful for being able to do that. So if I was just learning from my experience with my dog based on rubbing his belly, I wouldn't have a good theme that I could take into new situations. But having boiled it down to that resonating with touch, I could apply that to other situations and be grateful for them. I could feel like again, walking barefoot in the grass, or putting my feet in a pond, cool water, or putting on a cashmere sweater. I could be extra grateful for those things. I could actually seek them out, knowing that they appeal to me personally.
Is a lot of it come down to patterns in our way of thinking? Because people that get into complaining and finding problems just naturally tend to go there. They see the fault, whereas with gratitude, you have to change your pattern. And once you get in a new pattern, you can start to see positive in things.
Definitely. As I was saying, my approach to gratitude is about kind of an orientation to life. It's not about responding positively when external things go your way. It's not about like being happy or grateful when you find a parking place close to your destination, or if somebody calls you when you're thinking of them. Those are external things beyond your control. But it's really wonderful if you know yourself well and know what it is that you really respond to, that you could always practice identifying how those things are showing up in your current life.
What do you think?
And I do think that these themes are largely about patterns. That's how I discovered my themes originally, but they inform each other. In other words, if I notice having a certain pattern that informs how I'm thinking, and then if I actually take what I've learned from those patterns and say, am I seeing those patterns in a new situation, I could also respond by suggesting a pattern that is pleasant.
What do you think the benefits of gratitude are? Because there are a number of them, but what are some of the benefits?
Well, there's quite a few. There's been a lot of research on this, actually. Basically, if I'll mention some of them, one is less anxious when they could feel grateful about things. So there's less anxiety. I used it initially to get over depression. I think that's really important because I think depression often comes from a sense of hopelessness, a sense that you're not only having a little bit of a down mood, but it's like you can't get out of it. Like you're stuck there. And when you know that you personally have things that cause you to be grateful or appreciate, and that those things are present in your life, it gives you a little confidence that you could see some things genuinely that you respond to in what is really happening. So I think that's positive. Some other benefits have to do with physiology. People that are grateful tend to sleep better. They tend to have better relationships. People prefer to be with people who are natural at expressing appreciation. Like if you're in a work situation, wouldn't you rather work with a boss or coworkers who say, nice job, thank you? There are so many benefits to gratitude, and it's really extra beneficial when you realize you can control it. You can find things in your life already to be grateful for, that you're not dependent on good fortune. I was inspired in development of my process by my own experience and through the words of Eckhart Tolle, who said, acknowledging the good that is already in your life is the foundation for all abundance. And that's so powerful. What I tried to do is help people acknowledge or recognize what's in their life already as a place to start by lifting up their mood.
So in terms of like a timeline, how long did it take for you to go from depression to feeling not depressed with gratitude?
It takes a while. I don't think anybody with depression or with a serious, a lot of anxiety can turn it on or turn it off, that quickly. But you will start feeling better, like within a short time. I started feeling better, partially because I was a writer all my life who wasn't writing. And I've been blogging on gratitude on my blog, which is nosmallthing.net, since 2010. And when I started this, I had a place to write. I had a purpose for writing. So that in itself boosted my feelings. But I noticed within a few weeks, always looking for other things to write about, looking for other things to contemplate. And this changed expectation that things I like or things that I can appreciate are all around me really changes my attitude towards life. The more you see those things, those types of things, the more you will see them. I know some people have asked me, you've been doing this almost every week for 12 years. How do you keep coming up with things to write about? And it's like, once you have the orientation and once you have the belief that there are things to appreciate, things that might reflect your personal gratitude themes all around you, you never run out of things to really contemplate, and things that sort of reinforce your good feelings.
Do you think gratitude is
I
the
see them all the time. So it kind of builds on itself. The more you see, the more you can see. And the more confidence you have that these kinds of things are around you.
Do you think gratitude is the most important thing to find happiness? Is it the most important key?
I think one is in much better shape to pursue gratitude than pursuing happiness directly, because happiness is often considered like a high, like a blissed out state. And it's very rare to be in that state for any length of time. And often when we think of this happiness as this lofty thing, we don't know we're in that state till after it has happened and that's over. And there is something wonderful about gratitude, not just when it's left to chance, but when it's intentional. There is something about knowing I could be content, knowing that I could be grateful at least some periods, almost every day, because I can see something I could appreciate everywhere. So gratitude, I think, is better to focus on because it doesn't necessarily bring you happiness like parachuting from an airplane, like a big thrill, but it's a state of contentment, and that's a state of confidence. I know I could know how to come back to this state of appreciation and contentment on my own. I could do this myself.
Is it kind of like the difference between joy and happiness, where joy is more deep within you and it's just more a sense of well-being, that just sort of follows you through? Because even if you're unhappy in the moment, you can still, at a deeper level, be experiencing joy.
I've never thought about the term of the difference between joy and happiness. That might make sense to you. That might make sense to a lot of people. But I think about gratitude is and knowing how to get there as an incredible state of contentment and state of well-being. I not only know that this is a positive way to look at life, but I know it's a choice I make and I have the power to get there. And that really makes me feel very grounded in the state of well-being. And I think that's more important than just a quick thrill. I don't want to leave being happy to chance. I know how to get there.
How does mindfulness play into gratitude?
Mindfulness is extremely important. I believe mindfulness is a choice I make about how I want to live. So being mindful is the key to understanding what you value. To look at your experiences, mindfulness is not all about meditating and deep breathing. It's also about understanding your thoughts and feelings. So I believe that the key to creating your own gratitude themes come from being able to reflect on your experiences and really understand, being mindful of your feelings and thoughts, and understand what is the essence of why you appreciate those things. So I think mindfulness is super important. And one thing I might recommend, people have asked me, how do I create a gratitude, how do I start on a gratitude practice? And I say, one of the most important things you could do is practice being in the moment. So when you practice being in the moment, you could actually concentrate on your feeling, on what really makes you feel good. I don't want to call it happiness or joy or, a certain word, but it's basically having a good feeling. And it's being mindful that gives you clues on what you want to repeat and do again, and what you want to avoid. And that's, part of being mindful, is making those decisions about what you want to give your attention to.
Do you actually practice meditation?
A little bit. I'm not a good meditator, partially because I'm very mental, I'm very cerebral, but I did meditate a little bit, like 10 minutes this morning. I do meditate for a bit. It's just not one of my favorite practices. Again, partially because I think a lot. I think meditation is really good, but I don't meditate in I guess a traditional way. Sometimes I love doing walking meditations. It's kind of like bringing myself into a state of just open awareness and allowing. It's not about focusing on anything or seeing space. It's just about practicing not being attached to any one moment.
Mm-hmm. So do you have like a morning and evening routine that you do connected with gratitude? Like you wake up in the morning, you do something related to gratitude, or in the evening?
No. I have a little morning practice where I acknowledge what I did the day before, something that I acknowledge myself. I also write down ways I think the universe supported me, but I don't have a routine where I write down things I'm grateful for as a role, because I think too often, and it certainly depends on different people, when people do a practice like this, they focus more on the mathematics or coming up with a number. And I really think it's more about your feeling.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't necessarily believe that you need to start your day writing 5 things you're grateful for.
Mm-hmm. So you have a blog. Is that the best way people can find what you're writing and what you're doing?
Sure. A good place to start would be my website and blog. The blog used to be a standalone site, but now the blog is part of a bigger website. It's called nosmallthing.net is the name of my website. And every week I post a new blog that reflects something from my everyday life that I felt happy about or grateful about. I also have 2 books. One is called The Best and No Small Thing, Mindful Meditations. They're examples of my blog from the first 10 years. And my other book is called Practice Gratitude, Transform Your Life, Making the Uplifting Experience of Gratitude Intentional. So those are information about both of those are on the website. I also teach some courses, virtual workshops on how to develop your themes and how to basically start an intentional gratitude practice. Activities I'm doing every month, I do a free program on a free talk on mindfulness and how living mindfully really positively affects your life. So information on those talks are on my calendar and workshops and that sort of thing. So I'd welcome people to check it out.
Mm-hmm. So is there
And if anybody has a question, they could also Deborah with an H at nosmallthing.net. Feel free to get in touch with me.
So is there one final word you'd like to leave the audience with?
People have asked me what intentional gratitude has meant in my life. I would say I feel more confident. I feel less like a victim. My mood and how I can't control what happens to me in life, but I can control how I feel about it. And I believe anybody could genuinely apply what they learn about themselves to being in a more positive framework more of the time. So I think gratitude is really powerful. And I believe that if people take care of their own feelings of contentment and well-being, we're all going to get along better with each other.
That sounds great. Well, yeah, thanks for being on.
Thank you, Jay.